KPEL News Time is coming up on 6:41. You're listening to Acadiana's Morning News. Brandon Como, Bernadette Lee here with you. And joining us in the studio is 3rd Congressional District candidate Holden Hoggatt. Sir, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for getting up early with us this morning. So, all right. So you are running in the 3rd Congressional District. That is the district that Clay Higgins currently is the representative of. We'll get to him in just a little bit because you've come out with some strong criticism of him. But first, we want to learn more about you. Tell us, why you decided to get into the race, why the 3rd Congressional District, and how's it going so far?
Thank you. Yes, I decided to get in primarily because of the lack of hurricane response, disaster response. I have friends and family throughout the southwest Louisiana, and I've practiced law in each one of the parishes. I'm now a prosecutor in Lafayette Parish, prosecuting violent crimes and felony drug offenses. After Hurricane Laura, Category 2 storm swept through the Lake Charles and Calcasieu area and just utterly destroyed a whole swath. I realized that here we were 2 years later, we saw blue tarps everywhere. People are still living in their barns. They're living in FEMA trailers. About 2,000 people, as of today, are still in FEMA trailers in Calcasieu Parish and Cameron. And it was just heartbreaking. And I've talked with people, and their frustration was just overflowing. They couldn't understand why that we have an elected representative in Congress who puts on a good show, but when it comes time to deliver relief, they were abandoned. And so I'd been watching this for a while and decided it was time for good people to do something and be effective. It's one thing to fight for fighting's sake, and I'm a fighter, but I also believe in being winning. I believe in being effective in what we do. So that's what I pledge to bring. Work with other legislators, put our people first, myself last, and go get our district whatever we need. Protect our coast, lower our taxes, bring oil and gas back, protect our oil and gas industry, reduce regulations, and in general, improve the quality of life for our people in South Louisiana.
How much responsibility do you feel that a representative of a district that has been hard hit by a hurricane bears with the people? Like you said, you've criticized Congressman Higgins for what you say is lack of leadership in this instance. How much responsibility does a congressman have in this instance?
So to be effective, one in a legislative body such as Congress, you're one of 435 other people. Right. So you have to work within those norms, those systems to be effective. I'm not going to Congress because I think I'm something special and I alone can do this. It is, I understand the systems and I will go work with those people to do whatever is necessary to bring the relief home.
So let me ask you, how do you feel as a prosecutor? How has that prepared you for this position to be able to do that?
Because it's all about effectiveness. It's about seeing that justice is done. It's about timeliness and protecting our people. So really they're parallel tracks. And the same in my private law practice. I've spent time as a public defender. I've spent time helping families, abused children.
So you've been on both sides of the law.
I have.
I mean, prosecutor and public defender.
I have a very well-rounded approach. I've done some of all of it: business law, corporate, intellectual property litigation, bankruptcy litigation, you name it.
Wow. We're speaking with Holden Hoggatt. He is one of the candidates for the 3rd Congressional District. And, one thing that you talked about in your criticism of Congressman Clay Higgins was you said that he has some extremist views and that they're not reflective of the people that he's supposed to represent. You said that you are best suited for the conservative district. Talk about what maybe some of those extremist views of his are, and then also talk about what kind of candidate you are as far as your views. Conservative, or are you more moderate? Just talk about that a little bit.
Sure, and kind of answering the second portion initially. The candidate I'm a conservative Republican. I'm pro-life, pro-Second Amendment. I've raised my kids hunting and fishing. Fishing is our favorite family activity to do together. We have a camp below Abbeville on the Vermilion River, so we run out to Vermilion Bay all the time and Marsh Island. And just feel like someone who's actually in tune with the people in Southwest Louisiana. Mr. Higgins is just disconnected. He does not come to the district often, other than for a photo op, and then he jets out. I live here, have lived here, spend time here, am invested here. If we get a hurricane, a bad hurricane, and if you remember, Hurricane Laura in 2020 was coming directly for us. We were on high alert.
That's right.
So that was almost us. You know, my heart goes out to folks in Calcasieu Parish, but that was going to be Lafayette, Iberia, St. Martin, Vermilion, you know, and we would have been left out in the cold too. So considering most of my net worth is wrapped up in my house in Lafayette and my camp below Abbeville in Vermilion Parish, one bad hurricane and I, like many other people, could be wiped out. And that's a very concerning reality. And so it's personal for me and my neighbors and my family throughout Southwest Louisiana.
So someone who practices law, I would imagine that anti-crime, I mean, this is a time where we're seeing crime going up all over. You know, here in Lafayette, you know, there's many shootings that are happening right now. It's prevalent in the news all across the country. Me and Bernie have had conversations about this on the show. You know, we talked with someone on Friday about, you know, who's in the gun business and how just over the past 2-3 years, more and more people, more and more women are buying guns because they just want to feel safe. They want to feel protected. As someone who's been in the law, who's worked on both sides, as you mentioned, and in all different areas of it, or many different areas, talk about your stance on crime and how much of that is a part of your platform.
That's a very large part. We are seeing a tremendous spike in violent crime. Fortunately, we're not quite back to where in the 80s as bad as it was and into the 90s, but we're definitely trending in the wrong direction. I think there's a tremendous mental health crisis and addiction crisis. So in my daily work, I try to separate violent felons who belong in prison from someone who got jammed up, who, you know, blew out their knee in a sports injury and the doctors prescribed them opioids and it went downhill from there. We see a ton of that. So we've been working with the federal government already with some senator staffs, and we've been working the district attorney's office with UL's communications department to create an awareness for families before they lose a kid who's just graduated from college, for instance, and tries one pill. That pretty much all these pills now are laced with fentanyl, and it's the deadliest, unforgiving substance out there, and it's pervasive. So I think with the appropriate resources, so anti-crime is a large part of mine, and I have zero sympathy or empathy for violent offenders. They belong in prison. Having said that, there are a lot of people who need help with addiction disorder, and current Medicaid, Medicare programs a lot of times will reimburse a facility for, say, 28 days worth of treatment, and then they kick them out on the street, and the obviously predictable thing happens, they return, and it just cycles through. So we're trying to find better programs that last a longer period of time to where people get the treatment they need and then are released. And we work with a lot of faith-based entities that give people a second chance. You know, they have a farm or somewhere, a work facility that's not a prison, but here's their last chance. You can go over here, you wake up 5 a.m., read your Bible, go to breakfast at 6:30, and then go work, and you have a place to live, a way to earn money, a way to redeem yourself, and then we bring those people back into society through halfway houses and so forth, and give people a meaningful chance if they want it. And it's hard. I'm fortunate. I've not experienced opioid addiction, but I see it every day, and it's tremendously powerful and destructive.
How long have you practiced law?
I'll be going on 14 years here pretty quickly.
I asked that because is the law changing and the people that practice it in the outlook on drugs? And I asked that because, you know, we've had, of course, the war on drugs, and, you know, we've had people that have been sentenced for, and you could speak more to this, for what some would say is like a small amount of drugs, and they've gotten huge sentences for them. But now that we've seen fentanyl take a hold in our society, there's more of a sympathy, and I've kind of heard you talk about that as well, towards people that are having drug addictions. Is there kind of a change that's happening right now in the law as it pertains to people who use drugs?
I think there is almost a necessary shift underway because the traditional way that we have been approaching what's called the war on drugs has succeeded in some ways and is grossly inadequate to address the real problem in others. So people are realizing there is a place for medically assisted treatment. There is people should be treated for addiction disorder. So there is a shift underway. It's affecting our families, our neighbors, our communities. So we have to be pragmatic about it, and otherwise people are going to continue to die unnecessarily and be driven into desperation. So we have to, that's a component of winning this. Otherwise we're doomed to, we can't win it as it currently is going.
We're speaking with Holden Hoggatt. He is a 3rd Congressional District candidate. We've got 1 minute left. We want to give you the opportunity to tell listeners about yourself, and what's the lasting message you want them to have of you.
All right. I'm an old-time cowboy. I'm a country boy. I help people. I solve problems for a living. The greatest blessing in my life is my wonderful wife, Julie. I grew up in Jennings, Jeff Davis Parish, and we got to spend a good bit of time working and running cattle out there. I'm a conservative. I put the greater good ahead of my own interests. Much to my wife's chagrin, sometimes I should focus on making money instead of helping people, but it's a calling, and I feel good about that. Feel good about helping people. It's giving me goosebumps right now. I'll be proud to help our people, represent our people. One of my plans is to have the best, what they call constituent services offices. That means everybody who's in South Louisiana, if you get jammed up with the VA or Medicaid or Social Security or get trapped overseas, we're the people to call. And we'll have a very efficient, effective team. Right now, you can't get through to our congressman in any meaningful way. And I was a long-time donor and set up meetings, and nothing ever came to fruition, and I am one of the fortunate few. So that's a paradigm shift I intend to make, that everyone who we represent will have access to whatever we have, and that means interfacing with the federal government and getting past the bureaucrats and the red tape and the regulatory burdens and being effective and helping our people. It's that simple.
And by the way, I heard you also did a little bit of boxing back in the day?
That's been made too much of.
All right, we've been speaking with Holden Hoggatt. He is a 3rd Congressional District candidate. Again, looking to unseat the incumbent, Clay Higgins. Holden, thank you so much for your time this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. My pleasure.
All right, we'll go ahead and take this quick commercial break, and we'll be back. Well, we've got top of the hour news from Fox. Bernie has a look at your local and state headlines, and we'll continue on with Acadiana's Morning News.